Many people are still wondering if megalodons are really completely extinct or if a few individuals have survived to this day. While scientists and theorists are guessing, more and more videos and photos are appearing on the internet, which can prove that megalodons are alive and real. In this episode, I'll show you new megalodons that were caught on camera. Let's go. The Mariana Trench Giant. Japanese researchers decided to conduct a daring experiment in a bay near the Mariana Trench, the deepest place in the world ocean. They decided to lower a large container of bait onto the ocean floor and just to wait. Scientists were curious to see which animal would be the first to respond to the enticing smell of food. The bait first attracted a pack of deep-sea sharks, but then something happened that left the researchers speechless. Suddenly, these sharks scattered, and a giant shark of unbelievable size approached on the screens. It swam up precisely to the prey, ignoring the cameras and equipment at a depth of 1.5 kilometers. According to eyewitnesses, the body of the sea Goliath was more than 60 meters long. What could it be? Scientists have not found a clear answer. They got only guesses and speculation. Black Demon. In Baja Bay, not far from the California coast, for many years now, there's been a mysterious, violent, and extremely aggressive creature that local fishermen have nicknamed the Black Demon. The shark is described as resembling a great white shark, but with a black color. According to various sources, the Black Demon meters in length, and that's even bigger than a school bus. Most people believe that the stories about the Black Demon are just fiction. The most detailed evidence is usually blamed by skeptics on whale sharks, which are known for being larger than great white sharks and weighing several dozens of tons. However, it's very problematic to confuse the Black Demon with a whale shark because the Black Demon's aggressive behavior. This behavior is not typical for large whale sharks, which are considered peaceful creatures and feed on plankton. Moreover, juvenile whale sharks can even allow divers to play with them. Is it possible to confuse such a shark with a bloodthirsty Black Demon? The locals say that it's impossible. The legends about the demon refer to a very ancient and aggressive animal. Could it be Megalodon? Canada shark. In April 2016, a curious video was uploaded on the YouTube channel of a Canadian user. According to the channel's author, it was filmed back in 2014. The guy also claims that he actually encountered a real megalodon off the coast of Canada. Well, the video does indeed immediately show a huge shark. The shark never appears on the surface, so we can't reliably determine the species. Many of those who watched the video advised the author not to be afraid. A species known as the basking shark could have swam past him. Basking sharks, despite their creepy appearance and enormous size, feed exclusively on plankton. However, basking sharks have not been seen off the coast of British Columbia for a long time. Indirect evidence. In July 2019, a team of researchers from California decided to conduct a unique experiment. The submarine they lowered to the bottom of the ocean had to place a bug on one of the big bottom sharks. However, when the scientists saw which shark approached their bait, they were amazed. It was not a megalodon, but the blunt-nosed six-gill shark already known to scientists. The size of this shark impressed the researchers. Previously, marine biologists denied that the bottom sharks can reach such impressive size. It turns out that those who argued that huge sharks cannot be found at great depths and near the bottom were also wrong, weren't they? Does this mean that Megalodon can still live somewhere out there, in the darkness? You're not impressed with this indirect evidence? Then stay tuned, because I've saved the best part for later. Soon you'll see a huge fish photographed by a robot, a giant that was shot by satellite, and also learn about one of the most convincing proofs that Megalodon still roams the ocean. Robot and shark. In a recent documentary about megalodons, viewers were presented with this video. It was filmed in the Pacific Ocean during the installation of equipment for an oil platform. Usually, large companies do not spare money and prefer to watch every stage of such works through special deep-water cameras. But this time they caught not only robots. See the huge fins? Given the size of the robot and the approximate distance between the camera and the owner of the fins, it turns out that the shark must be at least 10 meters long. Could it be Megalodon? It's possible because these ancient sharks were about 10 to 15 meters long. Close-up shot. What can be a better proof of the existence of a living creature than a clear and vivid picture of it? Unfortunately, in the age of high technology, such evidence is rarely taken for granted anymore. When this picture, caught by Google Earth, first appeared on the internet, everyone became curious, especially considering that the ancient predator was found near one of the most popular tourist islands in the Bahamas. I think tourists vacationing in the Bahamas should be more careful. Noticed from space. In 2014, several nations received very contradictory and strange readings from their space satellites. If space observers are to be believed, giant living creatures were spotted off the coast of Papua New Guinea. Scientists could not believe their eyes. Judging by the way the mysterious objects were moving, it was obvious that these were living creatures. But their size was so enormous that the credibility of the finds raised doubts. Mysterious giants were similar to sharks in body shape, but at the same time they were several times bigger. If an adult individual of a great white shark reaches 5 or 6 meters in length, then here we're talking about a body length of over 16 meters. The version with whales also falls away. The creature observed preferred to hide deep underwater, which cetaceans do not do. Megalodon in Brazil. This video was taken by an onboard camera of the Brazilian rescue team in November 2012. It's one of the most unobvious and yet convincing evidence of the Megalodon existence in this episode. When the video first appeared on the internet, no one noticed anything suspicious about it. Fascinated by the coordinated work of the rescuers, people hardly looked at the surface of the ocean. They didn't know what they were missing. If you rewind to the beginning of the video and look closely at the top right corner, you can easily notice that there is a huge, dark silhouette moving under the water next to the boat. According to estimates of users who have reviewed this footage many times, the body of the creature must be at least 18 meters long. Could it be the mysterious Megalodon? Dead or alive? In the internet, you can find a lot of information that the official science failed miserably and that, in fact, ancient life forms have survived to this day, which scientists do not notice. Some conspiracy-minded authors even claim that ichthyologists hide the truth from us on purpose. For the uninitiated people, the theory of Megalodon survival does not sound so silly. After all, there could, hypothetically, be a predator that, in the course of evolution, learned to behave cautiously and hide somewhere in the depths of the world ocean, periodically surfacing for prey, right? Could it be that real megalodons still roam the world oceans? As far as I'm concerned, we shouldn't completely dismiss this version, no matter how crazy it may sound. At the same time, so far we don't have the most reliable, absolute proof that megalodons are still alive. That's all, guys. Do you believe that megalodons still exist, or should we forget about them forever? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you later. Everyone knows that crocodiles are large and dangerous creatures. But do you know how huge they can be? You ever seen a monster weighing more than a ton that was tied up by dozens of people? And what about Africa's most dangerous crocodile, or Australia's two irreconcilable enemies? Such monsters are worth seeing. In this episode, I'll show you these and other most incredible and giant crocodiles that were caught on camera. Let's go. Lolong. The largest crocodiles in the world are saltwater crocodiles. These are the largest terrestrial predators on the planet, which regularly grow to 5 meters or more in length. But even among such giants, there are supergiants, and Lolong is one of them. More specifically, Lolong is basically the largest crocodile in history, which size has been officially documented. Moreover, this is the largest crocodile in history held in captivity. The monster was 6.17 meters long and weighed 1,075 kilograms. How do you like such a monster the size of a 2-story building? Thanks to its size, Lolong even made it into the Guinness Book of World Records. Lolong was caught for a reason. The giant, which was terrorizing the Philippines, was a menace to the locals, so it was necessary to catch it. In 2011, the giant was hunted down and spied on for weeks. When the giant was caught and pulled out of the water, it took the combined efforts of hundreds of people and a whole night of long struggle to subdue and tie up the monster. It was then that the official measurements were taken. The footage shows Lolong lying on a cart, tied up with a bunch of ropes. The giant seems resigned to its fate. It doesn't move, and some locals even dare to touch its face. But at one point, Lolong decides to break free one last time and tries to escape. Creepy footage shows this giant spinning around, breaking the cart, tearing a couple of ropes, and scaring the locals. Fortunately, the enraged giant was unable to break free. It was subsequently taken to a separate enclosure at the Philippine Zoo, where it died in 2013. Cassius. Saltwater crocodiles never cease to amaze with their size and features. Cassius is another saltwater crocodile in this episode that was caught captured on camera. In fact, it's not that difficult to film Cassius, as it's been kept at the Marineland Crocodile Park in Australia since 1987. The size of the giant is an astonishing 5.48 meters long and weighs 1,300 kilograms. It's even heavier than Lolong. By the way, in 2011, Cassius even made it into the Guinness Book of World Records as the largest purebred saltwater crocodile kept in captivity. In addition, Cassius is also one of the oldest crocodiles on the planet, which age is approximately known. At this point, the monster is over 110 years old. Before Cassius was caught, it swam in the Finnis River in northern Australia, where it often fought other crocodiles. The fighter was seriously injured more than once. In one fight, Cassius even lost its front paw and part of its tail. Now Cassius is calmer. Years of captivity have somewhat humbled the monster. Nevertheless, the predatory temper often manifests itself. The workers actively feed Cassius, preventing it from feeling hungry and becoming enraged. After all, if that happens, the old crocodile might get angry and remember all the fighting skills. Gustav. Not only saltwater crocodiles can be aggressive and huge, but also Nile crocodiles. They're the second largest of all crocodiles on the planet. At the same time, some Nile supergiant crocodiles can even exceed the size of their saltwater congeners. And Gustav is a perfect example of this. This is a male Nile crocodile that lives off the banks of the Rusizi River and the northern shores of Lake Tanganyika in Burundi. The exact length of the monster is unknown, since it's not yet been caught. But according to various estimates, it can be from 6 to 7.5 meters. Gustav is estimated to weigh over a ton. Gustav has acquired a near mythical status in the region. Virtually all locals know about the giant and are very afraid of it. The reason's simple. Gustav has a huge number of victims to its credit. The aggressive monster attacks people very often. Only in the last few years, 300 to 500 people became the victims of the crocodile. Given that the crocodile was born in 1955, it's scary to even imagine its complete bloody statistics. Gustav has instilled fear, not only in the people living near the bodies of water it inhabits, but also in hippos. Although usually Nile crocodiles coexist peacefully with hippos and even avoid aggressive individuals protecting their territory or their babies, Gustav has been known to deliberately hunt them. Unfortunately, despite all attempts to catch the giant, so far no one's managed to do so. We can only hope that soon this monster will be in captivity and the residents of Burundi will breathe easy. Battle. Australia is world famous for its incredible crocodiles. In the northern part of the country, there are a lot of them, and of course among them are some real giants which sometimes can be caught on camera. Some of Australia's largest crocodiles at the moment are considered to be Brutus and Dominator. They live in the Adelaide River. Brutus is about 5.5 meters long and weighs about a ton. Dominator is over 6 meters long and weighs more than a ton. Sometimes they're seen separately, and sometimes these giants collide face to face. In 2019, tourists filmed the two monsters fighting. The footage taken while walking by the Adelaide River shows Dominator being taunted with bait. It tries to grab the prey unsuccessfully, after which Brutus approaches it. The reptile bites Dominator's tail and begins the fight. The reptiles pounce on each other several times, then swim away. This is not the first such battle. The locals say that the two often tussle with each other. They're also certain that sooner or later Dominator will defeat Brutus because it's younger, larger, and has no serious injuries. Brutus is missing one paw. It's believed to have lost it in a fight with Dominator. Not all giant crocodiles are aggressive. Some of the huge reptiles are quite peaceful, and they were caught on camera as well. Stay tuned to see one of the largest crocodiles of our time living on an American farm, see an unusual golfer alligator, and learn how one toothy giant was returned to its native river. Let's move on. Yutan. Yutan is currently one of the largest crocodiles in the entire world. This giant reaches 5.5 meters in length and weighs over 900 kilograms. It's an interspecies hybrid of the saltwater and the Siamese crocodile and lives in captivity in the Alligator Adventure Farm in South Carolina, USA. Yutan spent much of its life in Thailand, where it was born on a crocodile farm. It was later moved to the United States, where it lives to this day. Yutan is often filmed by visitors to the farm because it's not every day you get to see such a giant. For its incredible size, the monster even got a resounding nickname, the King of the Crocs. By the way, among other things, Yutan is also one of the most powerful crocodiles in the world. A couple of years ago, scientists calculated the bite force of the reptile, and it was 280 kilograms per square centimeter. Despite its incredible size and powerful jaws, Yutan is a fairly calm crocodile. It's not as aggressive as saltwater crocodiles that live in the wild. This is probably because Yutan has lived its entire life in captivity. On a course. Imagine this. You're quietly playing golf on a sunny lawn, enjoying nature when suddenly the game is interrupted by a creepy and huge alligator which has decided to walk across the course. Frightening experience, right? That's exactly what the players had to experience when they got out on the Buffalo Creek Golf Course in Florida in 2016. Though the players were terrified, they still pulled out their phones and started filming the monster. Footage came out shocking. Even through the screen, you can feel the size and power of this huge reptile. It was estimated that the giant was 4.5 meters long. It walked leisurely along the course toward the lake. Fortunately, the reptile was not aggressive. The alligator did not attack the players and didn't even pay attention to them. By the way, as it turned out later, the alligator has long lived nearby and is even a kind of mascot of the golf course. The giant doesn't bother anyone, and the players, in turn, don't bother it. I hope it'll continue to be so. After all, who knows what this giant mascot has in mind? Daredevil. Papua New Guinea is home to many crocodiles, so it's easy to find giant reptiles in many of the country's zoos. Usually, zoo employees entertain tourists by feeding crocodiles, but this zoo employee decided to go a step further. After feeding a huge crocodile, he sat right on top of it. Of course, zoo workers are professionals who should not be afraid of crocodiles, but such courage is not given to everyone. After a while, the employee got off the giant and kissed it. Fortunately, the huge crocodile took such signs of attention calmly and did not show aggression. Sri Lanka. In 2016, Sri Lanka was shaken by some unusual news. A huge crocodile about 5 meters long and weighing about 900 kilograms came out of a river during its overflow and crawled into an artificial canal in search of food, where it began to pose a threat to the locals. The monster could not get out on its own and crawl back into the river, so it was urgent to get rid of the giant to keep people safe. The capture operation was initiated by the local authorities. This footage shows how the giant was caught. To move the reptile into the river, the local conservation department used a truck and an excavator. The operation was successful. For some reason, the reptile behaved very calmly and did not resist. Probably the crocodile itself understood that people did not want to harm it, but only wanted to send it to its native river. When the crocodile was brought to the site, it was unloaded onto the shore and released. Then it was pushed with a dipper toward the river. After a couple of minutes, the giant disappeared into the body of water. That's all, guys. Would you like to see a giant crocodile with your own eyes? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and see you later. In this episode, we'll show you the world's largest whale. You'll find out what kind of whale it is, how big it is, and most importantly, what this amazing giant can do. In addition, there are a couple of nice bonuses about other incredible whales in the video, so we recommend watching the episode till the end. The largest whale in the world. You all probably know that the blue whale is recognized as the largest mammal on the planet at the moment. Moreover, many scientists even claim that the blue whale is the largest animal in the history of Earth. But in fact, the number of respected organizations, including the World Wildlife Fund, believe that the largest whale on the planet is not the blue whale itself, but its subspecies, the Antarctic or southern blue whale. Once again, Antarctica surprises us with its giants. According to the World Wildlife Fund, an Antarctic blue whale is the largest animal in the world with an average length of 30 meters or 98 feet and a weight of over 180 tons. To give you an idea of how much that is, one Antarctic blue whale weighs as much as 30 savanna elephants, the largest land animal in the world. Of course, an Antarctic blue whale is not as huge and is shown in some pictures, but still it's very big. People who saw this giant in close proximity said it made an incredible impression on them. According to them, when you see an Antarctic blue whale floating by, it's kind of like standing on a station platform by a passing train, hoping that the wind from the train won't pull you under its wheels. A similar statement, by the way, is true of ordinary blue whales. As for incredible characteristics and abilities of the Antarctic monster, they're astonishing. The heart of this whale alone is comparable in size to a car, which is simply amazing. Also, this giant is hardly equal in its appetite. An Antarctic blue whale consumes about 3,600 kilograms or 7,930 pounds of krill a day. Just think about it, more than 3.5 tons of food a day. Again, to give you an idea of how much this is, an average person eats up to 50 tons of food in a lifetime. That is, an Antarctic blue whale eats as much in just a couple of weeks as a human eats in 70 years. Fortunately, Antarctic blue whales are not predators. Can you imagine how much worse it would be for ocean dwellers if these giants were carnivores? The Antarctic's giant's abilities do not end there. The World Wildlife Fund recognizes it as the loudest animal on the planet. An Antarctic blue whale screams at 188 decibels, while the volume of a jet plane is 140 decibels. The Antarctic monster's cry can be heard hundreds of kilometers away. These whales communicate with each other using their cry. Fortunately, these mammals, like usual blue whales, communicate at low frequencies. If they shouted at high frequencies, ocean residents and people living in coastal areas would simply go deaf. Antarctic blue whales are unbelievable animals that amaze us with their capabilities. Unfortunately, these giants are now threatened with extinction. Back in 1926, 125,000 whales were swimming in Antarctic waters, and today there are about 3,000 of them left. Commercial whaling, which was legal for most of the 20th century, is to blame. Now many organizations are protecting this amazing subspecies. Hopefully, this subspecies can recover its population. Otherwise, the world will lose these incredible giants. Would you like to travel to the South Pole to see these amazing creatures with your own eyes? Write about it in the comment section below, and we'll continue. Antarctic blue whales are certainly unique and very cool animals, but there are quite a few other interesting whales in the world to talk about. Stay tuned because next we'll show you some unique whale specimens that are sure to surprise you. The world's loneliest whale that can't communicate with its congeners, a trained whale that can play rugby and film the ocean on a GoPro, and an albino whale which is protected by government. These and some more incredible whales are next in this episode. Let's move on. All whales in the world sing and scream at low frequencies, about 15 to 20 hertz. But there's a unique whale among all other whales in the world. It's the 52 hertz whale. Since the 1980s, scientists have been tracking it regularly in different parts of the world ocean. As you might have guessed, this individual communicates on a frequency of 52 hertz. Actually, communicates is not quite the right word because it cannot be heard by other individuals. Whales simply do not perceive communications at such a high frequency. Scientists believe that the 52 Hz whale is the only whale in the world that sings and cries at such a high frequency, and therefore they called it the loneliest whale in the world. Unfortunately, none of its congeners understand this poor fellow. Science still can't figure out what caused this malfunction and why the whale started singing at such a high pitch. Considering that scientists have only sound recordings, there's no way to establish contact with the individual itself. Answers may never be forthcoming. One of the most amazing toothed whales lives in the Arctic waters. We're talking about a male beluga whale, which has made a lot of noise on the internet in the last few years. Now you'll see why. In 2019, one girl went to a pier in Hammerfest, Norway to watch some beluga whales. She lay down on the pier and tried to reach for a toothy whale to pet it, but suddenly her iPhone fell out of her jacket pocket and into the water. The girl had already said goodbye to her smartphone when suddenly a male beluga whale dived in, caught the phone, and returned it to the girl. Unusual situation, huh? But that's not all. That same year, but a little later, a group of South African rugby fans went to the Arctic. When they saw a male beluga not far from the ship, they threw it a ball. As the fans say, they just wanted to give the whale a gift. But they never expected that the male whale would swim for the ball, catch it, and return it back. Later, the fans threw the ball to the whale several more times, and it returned it back each time. Would every whale do the same thing? Finally, a couple years ago, a male beluga whale with a GoPro on its head was spotted off the coast of Norway. This is already very interesting, right? Why would a toothy whale need a camera? He's not a YouTube blogger after all. Many people are sure that all three stories feature the same male beluga whale, which is not as simple as it seems. Migaloo. There's another amazing whale with almost no analogs in the world. Migaloo is the whale that was first spotted off the coast of Australia in 1991. One look at this whale may be enough for many of you to understand why it's unusual. Migaloo is an albino whale. Scientists originally thought that Migaloo was the only one of its kind, but they later came across other albino humpback whales, which were given the names Baloo, Willow, and Migaloo Jr. But there's a connection between these individuals and Migaloo. Scientists believe that all of these albino whales are descendants of Migaloo. For 30 years, scientists have been observing Migaloo's behavior. They determined that the whale was born in 1996. They were also able to find out that Migaloo is a healthy animal despite its peculiarity. Migaloo is a unique whale, so to preserve such an individual, the Australian government even passed a special law. The distance between people and the Migaloo must be at least 500 meters, 1,640 feet. Only occasionally, this unique whale is seen in different parts of the Pacific Ocean, and although many people go on sea trips hoping to meet it, only a few of them are lucky to come across Migaloo. If you're disappointed that you won't get an opportunity to meet Migaloo, don't despair. Migaloo's a great whale, but there are other interesting whales in the world that you can meet. In the final part of this episode, we'll tell you about a couple of whale species you may see with your own eyes. Did you know that there are bottlenose whales? This is not a gimmick. They really are called that. Bottlenose whales is a genus of beaked whale containing two species, the northern and southern bottlenose whales. Southern bottlenose whales live in the waters of the South Pole, so we're not very interested in them because it's unlikely that many of you will get an opportunity to visit Antarctica. The Azores, on the other hand, do not seem to be such an inaccessible place because these islands can be visited. On a trip to these islands, you can go on an excursion tour of the northern bottlenose whales. This species is much better studied than its southern congener. Northern bottlenose whales live in waters of the northern hemisphere. It can even be found in the Mediterranean Sea and occasionally in the White Sea and the Baltic Sea. This whale often comes ashore, so you can see these whales with your own eyes. Of course, they're not as big as blue whales, but a northern bottlenose whale is still a very interesting species. Sei whale. And finally, we have another interesting species. The sei whale is a baleen whale, the third largest rorqual after the blue whale and the fin whale. These animals, reaching up to 13 meters or 42 feet in length, are inhabited from the northern latitudes of the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans to the Antarctic. Sei whales, preferring waters with a temperature from 8 to 25 degrees Celsius or 46 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit, In Russian waters, it can be found near the Kuril Islands and in the Barents Sea. Sei whales keep in small groups not far from the shore. So if you find yourself in the right place, you will easily meet one of these amazing creatures. That's all, guys. Press the like button if you liked the video, subscribe, and don't forget to stay notified for upcoming videos. Check out some more of our stuff, and we'll see you later. Do you think the gorillas are the biggest and most dangerous primates? No. Other monkeys, which were 4 meters tall and weighed half a ton, could compete with them. If they hadn't died out, of course. I'm talking about Gigantopithecus. In this episode, you'll see these prehistoric monsters and find out why they were 100 times more dangerous than gorillas, and more. Let's go. Who are Gigantopithecus? The very name Gigantopithecus already hints that we're dealing with a creature of gigantic size. And it really is. Let's find out who they were. Gigantopithecus is an extinct genus of great apes that existed in ancient times on the territory of modern China, India, Thailand, and Vietnam, and became extinct only 100,000 years ago. Little remains of Gigantopithecus today. Only a few fossils remain of large teeth and lower jawbones. Nevertheless, scientists still managed to recreate the appearance of this animal from the past. It was a distant ancestor of modern orangutans, only much larger. Gigantopithecus was 1.823 or even 4 meters tall. As for the weight of Gigantopithecus, according to the most modest estimates, it might have been about 200 to 300 kilograms. Bolder estimates of researchers say that the animal weighed up to 550 kilograms. These parameters make Gigantopithecus the largest ape known to science. In general, we can assume that this potentially dangerous animal is even more agile and stronger than modern bears or gorillas. By the way, it's interesting that Gigantopithecus could frighten anyone with their appearance, but according to many scientists, they were vegetarians. When did Gigantopithecus become known? The scientific world first learned about Gigantopithecus in the first half of the last century, and then they discovered not even a skeleton but a relatively small piece. They found it not somewhere in pristine Asian forests but on a store shelf in Hong Kong. It happened in 1935 when the German paleontologist Gustav von Königswald strolled through the market and paid particular attention to the stores with the means of Chinese traditional medicine. He had a purpose. He was looking for dragon bones. Dragon bones were not, as you might immediately think, the remains of dragons, as traders often referred to fossils of all kinds from all over the world. On one of the counters, von Königswald found a pair of molar teeth that had some similarities to human teeth, but were much larger than that of humans, and larger than that of any ape known to science. That same year, Gustav von Königswald described a new genus of primates, calling it Gigantopithecus, that is, giant ape. Although the scientist had only teeth at his disposal, he was confident that he was dealing with a creature of enormous size. It was decided to continue the search in the Chinese markets. In 1939, the paleontologist managed to get his hands on some more teeth. He discovered that they'd come from somewhere in the southern provinces of China. It also turned out that there were as many as 3 species of this giant ape. The earliest of them dates back to about 9 million years ago. That is the Miocene period. But the largest of the Gigantopithecus was Gigantopithecus blacki, which lived about 2 million to 100,000 years ago during the Pleistocene in what is now southern China and Vietnam. Gustav von Königswald presented a complete description of Gigantopithecus to the world in 1952. Comparison of Gigantopithecus with gorilla. Today, gorillas are the largest great apes and primates in general. They can be up to 180 centimeters tall. They also weigh a lot, from 140 to 200 kilograms. But as it turns out, they still need to compete for the title of the largest monkeys because, according to experts, Gigantopithecus were up to 3 or even 4 meters tall, as I've already mentioned. Again, they weighed up to 550 kilograms, which makes Gigantopithecus twice as big as the mountain gorilla. And the mountain gorilla is considered the largest monkey of our time. If it rises, it would be over 2 meters tall. Its weight exceeds 250 kilograms and sometimes reaches 365 kilograms. But in any case, the leader in this pair is Gigantopithecus. Gorillas are massive and very strong monkeys with well-developed muscles. The gorilla surpasses any of the humans in strength. In weightlifting competitions, the gorilla will easily break all records because the gorilla can move 10 times its own weight. Nevertheless, gorillas eat mostly grass, wild celery, or fruit, so they're obvious herbivores. The jaws and teeth of Gigantopithecus were 1.5 to 2 times larger than those of modern gorillas, so the size of their skull and body must have been enormous. Despite the fact that the skull of these giants has not yet been found, we can still assume that the brain volume of Gigantopithecus was noticeably larger than that of the gorilla. In Gigantopithecus, the average brain size should be approximately in the range of Pithecanthropus values. Of course, it's not necessary to speak about the developed intelligence of Gigantopithecus, but nevertheless, such volume also mattered. But since Gigantopithecus were larger than gorillas, they were also many times more powerful. The gigantic size of Gigantopithecus suggests to some researchers that these huge apes could not feed only on plant food. For example, in 1956 to 1958, in the Lucheng area of Guangxi Province, in the cave of Mount Lengjiashan, there were discovered several teeth in the lower jaw of Gigantopithecus. First, attention is attracted by the fact that the caves were usually located on very inaccessible slopes. Moreover, no traces of fire or any implements were found there. But numerous bones of hoofed animals were found in cave deposits. Bones of large mammals found together with Gigantopithecus and visibly similar of the latter with human ancestors suggest that Gigantopithecus hunted even such large animals as rhinos, as well as mastodons and stegodons. But in order to overpower such large animals, they could at least use some tools, right? Some are sure that Gigantopithecus were able to defeat large animals without the use of tools because they were endowed with enormous physical strength. We can imagine that they set up ambushes on the high, steep riverbanks where animals came to drink water and where their migration routes passed. The hairy giants could easily kill their prey by throwing a large stone from a height. Therefore, if we take into account the known information and assumptions of many researchers, we can say that Gigantopithecus are 100 times more dangerous than even gorillas, which are the strongest and most formidable primates of today. How did Gigantopithecus move? The method of movement of Gigantopithecus still raises many questions, since the pelvic and leg bones have not yet been found. Here, scientists are divided into two camps. Of course, the opinion that they walked on 4 limbs like modern gorillas and chimpanzees is predominant. From the point of view of adherents of this theory, if Gigantopithecus walked on 2 legs, the weight of such a large and heavy animal would have created an enormous load on the legs and feet. And when moving on 4 limbs like a modern gorilla, the weight would have been distributed on each limb better. However, there's also an opinion in favor of the bipedalism of Gigantopithecus. Such an idea, for example, has been advanced by the anthropologist Grover Krantz based on the very few jaws that have been found which are U-shaped and widen toward the rear. Accordingly, this leaves room for a windpipe. It makes it possible for the skull to sit directly on the straightened spine, as in modern humans, rather than in front of it, as in other great apes. What happened to Gigantopithecus? Despite all the information available to researchers, we can say that very little is still known about Gigantopithecus. However, even with this amount of information, scientists continue to find out what happened to these giants. For example, researchers at the Senckenberg Center for Human Evolution and Paleoenvironment in Germany believe they've uncovered at least one mystery that surrounds the giant primates. They believe that the ape went extinct because of an inability to adapt. Anthropologist Sherry Nelson of the University of New Mexico has also set out to determine the cause of the extinction of the largest man-ape genus. Nelson believes that climate change was the cause of the extinction of Gigantopithecus. The giants simply failed to adapt to it on a dietary level. To confirm her words, she turned to the isotopic composition of monkeys' dental enamel. The fact is that many physical and chemical processes contribute to changes in the isotope ratios in certain elements. In the 1970s, it was shown that different diets of animals are characterized by their isotopic portraits. A little later, it was found out that isotopic differences are reflected in the enamel during the formation of teeth. Thus, Nelson selected several species of animals that inhabited the same territory at the same time as Gigantopithecus. Next, she analyzed the ratios of different oxygen and carbon isotopes in the enamel of these animals. It was well known what the selected species ate, so she obtained an isotopic portrait of their diets. The anthropologist then compared these portraits with the enamel data of Gigantopithecus. In the course of the study, Nelson was able to establish the following. It turned out that the giant apes were vegetarians after all, but they didn't like bamboo. Then it turns out that this generally diverges from the popular opinion among scientists that Gigantopithecus ate mostly bamboo. Nelson concludes that climate change, namely cooling, had drastically reduced the availability of plant food or made many species and varieties disappear altogether. Thus, the area of forests has shrunk and the number of open savannas has increased. Unlike smaller apes, it wasn't possible for Gigantopithecus to survive in the new conditions. Other primates were smaller in size, so they required much less food and could also live in the canopy of trees. But Gigantopithecus couldn't do that. That's why the genus became extinct. That's all, guys. Could King Kong defeat Gigantopithecus? Share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and see you later.
This snake may seem colossal to you, but what you are about to see will amaze you even more. Deep in the lush forests of Dominica, something truly massive was discovered. A boa constrictor of jaw-dropping size unlike anything seen before was found clinging to a tree. The workers who stumbled upon it had no idea they were about to face a serpent so big that even lifting it required heavy machinery. The sheer thickness of its body was enough to send shivers down the spine. It wasn't just a big snake, it was a giant, a true jungle behemoth. This wasn't the kind of snake that slithers past unnoticed. It hung like a fallen tree limb, its massive coils wrapped around the branches, staring down with its dark, lifeless eyes. The moment footage of the creature surfaced, the internet exploded. People debated whether something this large could even exist outside of legend. To move the snake, workers had to use a crane. Yes, a crane, just to hoist it down from its perch. Its weight was staggering. Even when suspended mid-air, it looked like it could crush anything beneath it with a single drop. The sheer effort needed to remove it was something straight out of a nightmare, but the biggest question was, how long had it been growing? A boa constrictor can live decades, growing larger and stronger with each passing year. Could there be more of these lurking deep in the untouched wilderness, hidden away where few dare to venture? If this one had gone unnoticed for so long, who's to say there aren't others, even bigger, waiting in the dense green shadows? And just like that, the massive boa of Dominica vanished, taken away in the back of a truck. No one knows what happened to it after that. Some say it was relocated, others believe it was too big to be safely contained. But one thing's for sure, this was one of the largest snakes ever captured on camera, and it left the world wondering, just how big can these monsters really get? Deep in the heart of Kansas City, hidden inside the edge of Hell haunted house, something far more terrifying than ghosts or ghouls waits in the darkness. A living creature so enormous that it stretches longer than a school bus. This is Medusa, the longest captive snake in the world, a 25-foot, 2-inch-long reticulated python that sends chills down the spine of anyone who sees her. Her name is fitting. When she lifts her head and stares, it's enough to make anyone freeze in place. Weighing an astonishing 350 pounds, she isn't just long, she's powerful. Each coil is like a living muscle, strong enough to squeeze the life out of anything that gets too close. If she were in the wild, she'd be an apex predator, capable of taking down deer, wild boar, even crocodiles. But here's the most unsettling part. Medusa isn't done growing. Reticulated pythons keep getting bigger for most of their lives, and no one really knows where the limit is. She's already broken records, officially recognized as the longest captive snake ever measured, but how much more can she grow? Could she reach 30 feet? Could she get even bigger than the legendary man-eating pythons of the past? When she's not feeding, she moves with an eerie slowness, as if she knows she has nothing to fear. Workers at the haunted house say she can be unpredictable, calm one moment, coiled and tense the next. A creature this large has no natural predators. It moves through its world without doubt, without hesitation, like a force of nature. She's been featured in documentaries, studied by reptile experts, and stared at in awe by thousands of visitors. But no camera, no description can truly capture what it feels like to stand next to 25 feet of living, breathing reptile. When Medusa moves, the entire room feels smaller. There's no mistaking it. This is a true giant, the kind of snake that should belong to another era, a prehistoric beast that somehow ended up in our world. Deep in the dense jungles of Indonesia, where thick vines twist through the trees and sunlight barely reaches the ground, something massive was lurking. A reticulated python, so enormous that an entire village had to step in just to deal with it. It started with strange noises at night, branches cracking, animals vanishing. Then one day, a group of villagers stumbled upon something unbelievable. A python so thick and long that it looked like a fallen tree, until it moved. Its scales shimmered like wet metal, its body coiled around a massive tree trunk, and its head, broad and triangular, turned toward the people watching. This was no ordinary snake. The villagers, armed with nothing but sticks and machetes, knew they had to be careful. A python this size could take down a human with ease. Some say it was over 30 feet long, thick as an oil drum. It had been living deep in the forest, hidden from human eyes, growing larger every year. How long had it been there? How many times had people passed by unaware they were being watched by a true jungle monster? When they finally managed to subdue the snake, it took dozens of people to lift it. The images spread across the internet like wildfire, people standing next to a creature so massive it hardly looked real. Experts debated its true size, but one thing was clear. This was one of the biggest snakes ever recorded in the wild. No one knows if there are more like it, hidden in the uncharted depths of the Indonesian rainforest. But after seeing what just one of them looks like, the thought of others lurking in the shadows is enough to make anyone hesitate before stepping into the jungle. In the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where creatures grow beyond imagination, something emerged from the jungle that shook the world. A colossal snake, so massive that even military-grade machinery was needed to lift it from the ground. It dangled from two enormous cranes, its lifeless body swaying like a fallen titan, its head as large as a grown man's torso, its eyes still holding that cold, unblinking stare of a predator. The footage spread like wildfire. People couldn't believe what they were seeing. This wasn't just a big snake, it was a monster. Its sheer thickness rivaled a tree trunk, its scales shimmering like armor under the brutal Amazon sun. Some estimated its length at 50 feet or more, a size that would dwarf any officially recorded anaconda. But that wasn't the most chilling part. The military vehicles surrounding the snake raised even more questions. Soldiers stood nearby, their weapons useless against something this enormous. Why was military equipment involved? Had this thing been hunted? Had it attacked something or someone? Some claim the snake was discovered during a highly classified operation, its body quickly taken away, never to be seen again. And then, the real mystery began. No official records, no follow-up reports, no scientific examination. It was as if the snake had never existed. Had it been covered up? Destroyed? Or worse, was it captured alive? If something this unbelievably massive could remain hidden in the Amazon for so long, what else is still out there waiting to be found? Deep in the wild heart of Brazil, where the jungle meets the rivers, a construction crew working on a hydroelectric dam made a terrifying discovery. As the team was clearing out a section of dense forest, they noticed something massive shifting beneath the debris. What they found was a green anaconda of unimaginable size, a creature so enormous that it left even seasoned workers in stunned silence. The snake was reported to be over 50 feet long, its body as thick as a grown man, its head wide enough to swallow a human whole. It had been living undisturbed for decades, growing larger and stronger, hidden away in the depths of the Amazon. When the crew attempted to remove it, they realized no single machine could handle its weight alone. This wasn't just a large snake. This was a living relic of an era when reptiles ruled the earth. Footage of the monstrous anaconda quickly surfaced, sparking heated debates. Some experts called it an exaggeration, saying that no snake could grow that large. But the workers who saw it firsthand had no doubts. They had looked into its cold black eyes. They had seen its body coil and flex powerful enough to crush steel. What happened next remains unclear. Some say the anaconda was killed in the process of excavation, while others claim it was captured and taken away by authorities. But then, the story disappeared. No official records, no scientific reports. Just grainy videos and rumors, whispered by those who were there. If a 50-foot snake was pulled from the depths of the jungle, how many more remain, unseen and untouched, lurking beneath the dark waters of the Amazon? It started as just another traffic jam in Malaysia, but as drivers grew impatient, trying to see what was blocking the road ahead, they realized something unbelievable was in their path. A massive, living creature stretched across the highway, longer than a bus, its scales glistening under the streetlights. A reticulated python, one of the largest ever caught on camera, had completely stopped traffic. It was so long that it spanned both lanes, forcing cars and motorcycles to a dead stop. Its body was thick, muscular, and pulsing with raw power, its slow movement sending waves of unease through the crowd gathering around it. Some tried to snap pictures, others just stared in shock, unable to comprehend how anything could grow this large. The python, estimated at over 30 feet long, seemed completely unfazed by the chaos it had caused. It had likely slithered out of the nearby forest, crossing the road in search of prey or shelter. But when local authorities arrived, things took a dark turn. As they tried to move the snake off the road, it lashed out, lightning fast, jaws wide open, proving that despite its massive size, it was still a predator, still a killer. It took several men, ropes, and extreme caution to finally remove it, a process that lasted for hours. Some claim the snake was relocated back into the wild, others say it didn't survive the encounter. But one thing is certain, that night, hundreds of people saw something that didn't belong on a modern highway. A reminder that deep in the forests of Malaysia, creatures beyond imagination still exist, and sometimes, they come a little too close. Long before humans walked the earth, monsters ruled the swamps, and none were more terrifying than Titanoboa, a snake so enormous that it made today's anacondas look like garden snakes. 42 feet long, weighing over a ton, this prehistoric serpent wasn't just the largest snake ever, it was one of the most dominant predators of its time. Over 60 million years ago, deep in the steaming jungles of what is now Colombia, Titanoboa stalked the rivers, crushing crocodile-sized prey with earth-shattering force. For years no one knew it had ever existed. But in 2009, deep in a coal mine in South America, scientists uncovered something shocking. The fossilized remains of a vertebra bigger than a human skull. At first they thought it belonged to a giant crocodile. But when more bones were found, the truth became clear. They had just discovered the biggest snake to ever exist. To put it into perspective, Titanoboa was longer than a bus and as heavy as a car. It could crush its victims with over 400 pounds of force per square inch, enough to snap bones like twigs. No warm-blooded animal could challenge it. It was the undisputed ruler of its prehistoric world. But then, it vanished. As the world cooled and jungles shrank, Titanoboa disappeared, leaving only its fossils behind. Or at least that's what scientists believe. Some claim that deep in the uncharted rivers of the Amazon, something massive still lurks beneath the surface. Something that moves like a shadow, unseen, waiting. Could there still be descendants of Titanoboa, hidden in the depths of the jungle? Could the monster snake of the past still haunt the rivers of the present? No one knows for sure, but every now and then, whispers of impossibly large snakes surface, glimpses of something huge, something that shouldn't exist, but just might. In the dense, unexplored jungles of the Congo, where legends of strange creatures have persisted for centuries, a military pilot saw something that defied logic. A snake so massive it could be seen from the air. It was the 1950s, and a Belgian Air Force pilot was flying over the remote forests of the Katanga region when something on the ground caught his eye. At first, he thought it was a fallen tree, stretching across a dirt road, but then, it moved. The snake lifted its head, its body coiled like a prehistoric beast, its length estimated at 50 feet or more. Stunned, the pilot immediately circled back for another look. The snake, now aware of the aircraft, reared up, as if challenging the machine above it. According to the pilot, it lifted its head nearly 10 feet off the ground, its scales glinting in the sunlight. He was so shocked that he grabbed his camera and snapped a photograph, one that would later become one of the most controversial images in cryptozoology history. When the photograph surfaced, experts were divided. Some said there was no way a snake could grow that big, that it must have been a trick of perspective or an optical illusion. Others weren't so sure. The Congo is home to some of the largest pythons and anacondas in the world. Could one have grown beyond anything ever recorded? To this day, no one knows for sure. The photograph still circulates, fueling theories, debates, and hushed whispers of something massive lurking in the Congo basin. Could a Mokele snake, something beyond science, still exist in the shadows of the rainforest? If a 50-foot serpent could be seen from the sky, what else is moving unseen through the depths of the jungle? Perhaps the real question isn't whether this snake was real. It's whether something even bigger is still out there. We've seen giants of the past and legendary behemoths, but now it's time to meet the true rulers of the modern world. Up next, the largest snake species alive today, creatures so massive they defy belief. Deep in the murky waters of the Amazon, a shadow moves beneath the surface. Silent, massive, coiled like a thick rope of muscle. The green anaconda, the undisputed heavyweight of the snake world. It doesn't need venom. It doesn't need speed. It only needs its sheer bulk and strength to dominate. This snake isn't just big, it's colossal. Some individuals stretch beyond 20 feet, but what really sets them apart is their weight. A full-grown female can tip the scales at 500 pounds, making her the heaviest snake alive. To put that into perspective, that's heavier than a full-grown lion. Unlike other large pythons that slither through trees, the anaconda is built for water. Thick, powerful, and almost too heavy to move efficiently on land, it glides through swamps and rivers like an underwater tank. It hunts in a way that sends a shiver down the spine. An anaconda doesn't chase, it lurks, it waits. A capybara takes a sip at the water's edge, completely unaware that a living coil of muscle is beneath the surface. Then, sudden chaos. The water explodes, and in a second, the anaconda's jaws clamp down. There's no escape. It wraps its victim in an unbreakable grip, each breath making the squeeze tighter until there's nothing left but stillness. These giants can swallow prey that seems impossible: deer, wild pigs, even jaguars. The elastic jaws stretch wide, the ribs expand, and over hours, sometimes days, an anaconda devours its meal whole. Once full, it might not need to eat again for weeks. Despite their intimidating size, green anacondas rarely bother humans. Myths and exaggerated stories paint them as man-eaters, but real attacks are extremely rare. Most encounters end with the snake slipping back into the water, vanishing like it was never there. There are big snakes, and then there's the reticulated python, a living rope of scales that seems to stretch on forever. While the green anaconda holds the title for weight, the reticulated python is the undisputed champion of length. The longest ever recorded measured over 32 feet, longer than a school bus. This snake is pure muscle, a predator built to constrict with terrifying precision. Found across Southeast Asia, from Indonesia to the Philippines, it weaves through jungles, marshes, and even bustling villages. Despite its immense size, it moves with an eerie grace, slipping through trees, disappearing into rivers, coiling through the underbrush without a sound. The reticulated python's hunting style is like something out of a horror story. It strikes fast, faster than the eye can follow, sinking its needle-sharp teeth into flesh. Then the real terror begins. In an instant, coils wrap around its prey, tightening with every exhale. The more the victim struggles, the tighter the grip becomes. Seconds pass, then stillness. These snakes don't discriminate when it comes to food. Monkeys, pigs, deer, anything that fits inside its gaping mouth is on the menu. There are even documented cases of reticulated pythons swallowing humans. Though rare, they've been found with a full-grown person inside. Their massive bodies stretch to unnatural shapes as they digest their enormous meals. In the wild, these giants are formidable, but in captivity, they become even larger. Some of the world's longest pythons have been found in zoos and snake farms, where food is plentiful and danger is minimal. Yet despite their size and reputation, reticulated pythons are surprisingly vulnerable. Poaching, habitat destruction, and the exotic pet trade have made life increasingly difficult for these giants. But as long as there are untouched jungles and hidden rivers, the longest snake on Earth will continue to slither through the shadows, growing, hunting, and waiting. In the heart of the Florida Everglades, an unexpected predator has taken over. It wasn't always here, but now, it's everywhere. The Burmese python, one of the largest snakes on the planet, has turned Florida's wetlands into its hunting ground. Originally from Southeast Asia, these massive snakes, some reaching 18 feet or more, were once common in the exotic pet trade. People bought them as hatchlings, small and harmless. But a few years later, when that cute little snake had grown to over 10 feet, eating chickens and rabbits whole, owners panicked. Many released them into the wild, thinking they wouldn't survive. They were wrong. Florida, with its warm climate and endless swamps, turned out to be the perfect home. The Burmese python thrived. It had no natural predators, and its favorite prey, raccoons, deer, even alligators, was everywhere. Populations of native animals started to plummet. Over 90% of small mammals in some areas have disappeared, all swallowed into the stomachs of these silent hunters. Now Florida is in an all-out war against these invaders. Hunters roam the Everglades at night, searching for the next massive python to capture. The state even holds python hunting competitions where people compete to remove as many as possible. Some of the ones they catch are terrifyingly large. Yet even with all the efforts, the Burmese python isn't going anywhere. They breed fast, they hide well, and they've already spread far beyond the Everglades. Some experts say the invasion is unstoppable. The Everglades, once ruled by alligators, now has a new top predator slithering through the swamps. The giant that should have never been here but now refuses to leave. In the vast savannas of Africa, where lions, hyenas, and crocodiles rule, another predator lurks. One without claws, without venom, without legs. The African rock python, a snake so powerful that even apex predators have learned to avoid it. This is Africa's largest snake, sometimes reaching 20 feet, thick as a man's thigh and packed with nothing but muscle. This python isn't subtle. Unlike its more elusive relatives, it is aggressive, territorial, and ready to fight if threatened. Its massive body is covered in earth-tone camouflage, blending perfectly into dry grass and rocky terrain. It waits in silence, coiled beneath the shade, watching. Then, when the moment is right, it strikes. The force of its attack is brutal. Its jaws snap shut, lined with hundreds of curved teeth that hook into flesh. Once the grip is locked, there is no escape. Within seconds, thick coils wrap around the victim, pressing down with an unimaginable squeeze. A full-grown antelope, a warthog, even a crocodile, all helpless in its grasp. One of the most chilling things about the African rock python is its ability to swallow something nearly twice its size. The snake's body expands, its jaw stretches beyond normal limits, and over hours, sometimes days, it devours its prey whole. There's even a confirmed case of a rock python swallowing a full-grown hyena, proving just how extreme its appetite can be. Unlike some of its more famous cousins, this python hasn't spread beyond its home. It stays where it belongs, deep in the wild where it continues its ancient way of hunting. But for those who venture too close, one thing is clear: this isn't a snake you want to surprise. Through the dense forests and misty wetlands of India, a quiet predator moves unseen. It doesn't chase, it doesn't roar, but it is one of the largest snakes on Earth. The Indian python, cousin to the Burmese python, is a 15-foot-long giant that thrives in the shadows. Unlike the more aggressive rock python or the monstrous anaconda, this snake is slow, almost lazy in its movements. But don't be fooled by its calm nature. When the moment comes, it is just as deadly. A deer steps too close, a monkey lingers on the ground, and in a flash, the python strikes. The bite is quick, just enough to hold its victim in place. Then the coils come, wrapping tighter with every breath, until nothing remains but silence. This snake is a master of patience. It can go weeks, even months without a meal. When it does eat, it takes its time, stretching its jaw to swallow prey that seems far too large. Peacocks, wild boars, even leopards have been found inside these massive serpents. Despite its size, the Indian python is disappearing. Habitat loss, poaching, and human conflict have pushed it to the edge. Many are killed for their skin, their meat, or simply out of fear. Yet in the untouched corners of the jungle, where ancient trees still stand and rivers still run wild, the Indian python remains. A silent giant, watching, waiting, and striking when no one expects it. That's about it. Write in the comments which snake impressed you the most. For more useful information, watch other videos.